Hey, everybody. Happy New Year from a very cold and snowy Colorado. Each week, I pop in live to answer a specific question from somebody in my Facebook group. And this week, it was Jenna, I know that before you were a business coach, you were a performance coach. So please tell me, how can I make sure that my resolutions actually stick this year? Because my history ain't so great. And I mean, we've all been there, right? We know the statistics about New Year's resolutions. So I just thought it was such a timely question and so important to share this in a few different venues. So let's go into the three reasons why most resolutions fail and what you can do to change things up this year to actually make them happen. The first one you've probably heard about before, but it's so important that I just have to repeat it now. The reason is that you don't set the conditions to actually make something become a habit. Habits don't just happen naturally. Like our brains are wired to follow a certain pattern that is, predetermined, something that we've been doing over time. That's why we're really, really good with repetition to an extent. I know that my creatives out there are like, I'm not good with repetition, but really the things that you don't think about are what you're really good at with repetition. It's the things that your brain does on autopilot. So when you're introducing something new into the system, you really have to make it a habit. And you've heard this thing about like 30 days. It takes 30 days to form a habit. Well, that actually varies. It's not set in stone. So you really just have to test this out for yourself. But one thing I want to make clear, it's not like 30 days and then you skip a day here and then you get back on the wagon, you try another day there. It's 30 consecutive days. You need to do this 30 consecutive days. So if you miss a day, yeah, that's okay. You do. You hop right back on and you keep going. But here's the thing, it may take you a little longer. If you break at 30 days, that habit may not be completely set and completely formed. And you'll know it if you keep messing up. If you keep messing up, the habit isn't formed yet. So here's the thing. I have a free guide that you're welcome to download. It's called Idea to I Did It. And it's how to take like all the potential and possibility that happens up in this space and actually turn it into something tangible and real, an accomplishment. So I'll pop the link in there, but you're welcome to download that. It has a sample schedule on it and a sample checklist and talks about really the fundamentals of habit forming, of making things part of your daily ritual so that it becomes second nature and you can continue with those goals that you set and actually see like the fruits of your labor, because there's nothing worse than going for a set amount of time and basically doing the hard part and then not reaping the results. So that's what I want for you guys. I want you to actually reap the results. So yeah, get that guide if you don't have it yet. The second thing is about really making sure that you have made this thing part of your identity. And the reason I say that is that so many of us hear about the why, figure out your why. Well, there are all sorts of different kinds of whys, and they're effective in different ways at different times. So here's an example. Let's say you really want to lose 10 pounds, and your motivation, your reason why, is because you just feel gross. You feel really gross and you need to get that weight off. And so that is fueling your determination. That's your why. Or another example would be if you have a reunion coming up or you have some big a wedding or some sort of event, then that's really fueling your why. Like you want to really make this happen so that on X date, you can look great in your little black dress. Okay, those kinds of whys work really well for very like high intensity short-term goals. But if you have a longer term resolution, and most of us are business owners and we do have to think in longer increments, you really need a different kind of why. You need something that's based with your identity. Something where you can say, if I don't do that, it's just it's just not me. Like this is just a part of who I am. And that's why this is like the bedstone of the foundation of my coaching practice. It's helping people get really clear on that identity-based why, so that there's no question about whether they'll succeed. And frankly, that's why my clients have such success, because they figured out how to make it a part of who they are, so that each decision really stems from just, there's really no question about it. They don't have to second guess. They just know who they are, what they're doing, and what they have to do. So here's an example: the US Marines. Now, forget that they're a military organization, because when we think military, we tend to think that they're like, I don't know, robots, right? Or there's something special about these people. Well, they're all human. So let's just pretend that the US Marines are like a sports team or a corporation. They all belong to a corporation. Regardless of what they do, we know that they're really gelled. You know that they're very good at what they do, that they accomplish what they set out to do, and that they're a really tight-knit unit, right? Well, the reason is because they have formed this way of thinking about themselves that says that they are all Marines and they're always Marines, and that's just who they are. And that's why they're able to accomplish so much, and that's why they're so successful. So there's a saying: once a Marine, always a Marine. And that means that once you retire, you're still a Marine. If you're off duty, you're still a Marine. Like the example I give is, I used to live next to a Marine base, and when you would go over there, if you weren't dressed like, I don't want to say with your shirt tucked in, but if you weren't looking fine, you could potentially get stopped, because someone would call you out and say, you don't look like a Marine. Even when you're not at work, even when you're not in your uniform, you're always supposed to be a Marine, because that's just who you are. That's part of your identity. So imagine how much you could accomplish, how powerful you could be, if you just acted in a way that was just a part of who you are, just exactly who you needed to be, all the time. All the time. And this doesn't mean being completely regimented and not having any room for leeway. No, it actually means you're embodying that essence of who you are and what you're doing in the world. It's crazy powerful. So, just to recap, the first thing was to really set the conditions for the right habits. The second thing was to make it a part of your identity. Make your resolution part of who you are. Really do the deep thinking about why and what this means to you, and what it means if you accomplish this, and how this reflects on you as a person. And then the third thing that I would bring up is to set yourself up for success by believing in it. See, here's what happens with resolutions. We think we want something, and so we set that out as a resolution, but there's a part of us that isn't really sure about it. I know that sounds crazy. You're like, well, of course, how could I not want to lose 10 pounds? Here's what happens. If you have a belief down deep that you really aren't going to lose the 10 pounds, because you know this is just how your body is. And I mean, you had a baby and your metabolism changes and hormones change. And so this is just the way it is. If you believe that, then every time you set out to lose those 10 pounds and you don't, you're just confirming that belief. And it's making it a little more certain and a little more certain that you're never going to lose that weight. So that's why mindset is so crucial and so critical, because if you don't uncover those limiting beliefs and then find a way to release them and let go of them, you're really like going uphill with all of your New Year's resolutions. It's not just the normal the normal things that you would have to do, changing up your habits and maybe sacrificing some of your favorite sweets or something. It's not just that, but you're battling against years and decades worth of ingrained belief that, and that makes it so, so difficult to change if you don't identify it. So the mindset work, and then of course also in order to really believe something will happen, and this is true with business goals, you need to set up some sort of like think about what will make you believe it, what will really make you believe it will happen. Usually accountability goes a long way. Different people are motivated by different things, so if you've put money into something, that might fuel your motivation, but also just knowing what the steps are, making sure that you have really tapped into all of your network, that you've tapped into expertise around you, mentors, people that have actually been through what you're trying to do, and getting all of their lessons learned and getting all of the exact steps so that you know exactly what has to happen when and what the likely pitfalls are so that you know how to overcome it and you actually believe that you're going to do it. Here's another example. If salespeople are promised a bonus if they meet a certain sales goal, but then they don't actually get that bonus, then the next time they're promised that bonus, they're not really going to work that hard to meet their sales goals because they don't really believe, they don't have the belief that it's going to happen. And this is the problem because motivation is completely correlated, completely tied to your belief in a positive outcome. So you do have to believe, and the way to believe is to set yourself up with success, with accountability, with expert advice, with a strong network, with really getting everything thought out beforehand so that you know exactly what you're going to do when you have your schedule, you have your habits, you've bought all the healthy food in your house, you've thrown out the things you don't want to be, caught nibbling, and you actually set yourself up for success. So, three tips again. One is make sure, set the conditions so that you can actually make it a habit. It has to become a habit if you're going to carry it through for the entire year. It's fine if you have a really strong pain point that's going to motivate you for like 2 weeks, but that's not what we're talking about. I mean, that's the easy stuff. It's the long haul that's difficult. And that's what I want to help you with in this video. So the first is setting up the conditions to make the habits actually stick. The second thing is to make it a part of your identity. Get clear on your why, but look for the kind of why that is about who you are and about if you don't do that thing, it's just not you. That identity-based why is the one that's most likely to fuel you for the long haul. And the third and final thing is to just set the conditions up so that you can believe it's actually going to happen. Do the mindset work that you need to do. See if there are any limiting beliefs that might be holding you back. You know this is a problem if it's a pattern. If it's something you've tried before and it just hasn't been able to work, then chances are there's another program going on in your brain that's actually heading in a different direction. And then set up that accountability. Go out to your network. Do everything you can so that you're sure that you are 100% believing that it's going to happen, and it will. Happy New Year, everyone. I hope this helped. Bye-bye.